Okay, so pleasant afternoon. Sorry. A pleasant afternoon. I request everyone to kindly settle down, please, as we are about to commence what we foresee to be another informative and insightful joint meeting of Rotary Club of Makati with the Rotary Clubs of Alabang, Daang, and Makati, Salcedo. I am Attorney Andre Reyes de Jesus of Rotary Club of Makati, and it is my privilege to moderate today's meeting. Now, some house rules before I defer to our life-changing presidents. First, please be advised that microphones of non-program participants will be muted to help keep the background noise to a minimum. Second, we request the visiting Rotarians and guests to please type in the chat box your names, clubs, or affiliations, or the Rotarian or Rotarians who invited you to participate in this meeting so we can properly acknowledge you later in the program. And the alternative, and this has been the custom, you might want to edit your name on the Zoom video meeting so we could immediately identify you as well. Third, those who have questions for our speaker after his talk are encouraged to use Zoom's raise hand function during our open forum or notify us in the chat box. Alternatively, you may opt to type in your question also in the chat box. We shall endeavor to accommodate the predictably numerous questions from the audience considering the topic for today's talk. For proper time management, however, we might have to limit the number of questions for our speaker, factoring the time required by our life-changing presidents for their respective responses, and of course, our desire to end on time. Last, please don't leave yet after the responses of our life-changing presidents, as we shall have our customary group photo op with our speaker. Thank you so very much, and please stand by.
Okay, thank you, Andre. So in behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati, I call this meeting to order.
And on behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati Salcedo, I hereby call this meeting to order.
Is Jack already here with us? Jack? That's JP. No, it was JP earlier. JP?
Yeah.
I think Jack isn't still with us. So he says he'll follow. So Andre?
Okay, so now that we've had a call to order, I'd like to invite President-elect Mayor Ibanez of Rotary Club of Alabang for our invocation.
Good afternoon. Let's bow down our head and feel the presence of the Lord. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly Father, we praise you, give glory and honor and thanksgiving for the wonderful day that you given to us. You may grant us forgiveness to our trespasses and help us to forgive one another who sin against us. Heavenly Father, thank you for the blessings that we receive every day, for the good health and for the continued healing to our country from this pandemic that we experience. We come to you today asking your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in a meaningful discussion. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions that might affect to us, to our family, and to our country. Let us also include prayers for peace to our country and to the whole world, and especially to Russia and Ukraine, who are in the midst of war right now. May the leaders of this country realize the effect of their actions to the humanity. Lord God, continue to remind us that all we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. All this we pray and ask to your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
We thank President-elect Mayor Cabanes for leading us in prayer. Now I invite everyone to join us in singing the Philippine National Anthem. We now have the Rotary Club of Makati hymn.
We're the Rotary Club of Makati, and together we stand proud. We are leaders with integrity, always ready to serve humanity, always living by the four-way test, building goodwill and peace along the way, giving hope to the world. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, prepared to aid our fellow men, as true Rotarians we live to lead. We believe in service above self, and this is why we succeed. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, and together we stand proud. We are leaders with integrity, always ready to serve humanity, always living by the four-way test, building goodwill and peace along the way, giving hope to the world. We're the Rotary Club of Makati, giving hope to the world. The Rotary Club of Makati.
To lead us in reciting the four-way test, I call on Rotarian Shav Halley of Rotary Club of Makati.
Four-way test. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Shav. Well, at this juncture, we now take this occasion to extend our warmest greetings to our birthday and wedding anniversary celebrators, and of course, to acknowledge visiting Rotarians and guests. Starting with, let me just await the flashing of that slide. Okay, so starting with our fellow Rotarians, architect June Palafox. Oops. Architect June Palafox, who celebrated his birthday on 16 March. Ai Galvez, 17 March. Thank you. Jojo Concepcion, 19 March. Butch Medalla, 20 March. And Rick Santos, 20 March. Now we have our Rotary aunts, starting with Ms. Grace Ang, 9 March. Sally Ponce Enrile, 12 March. Papat Escaler, 17 March. Joy Ibanez, 18 March. And Joy Concepcion, 20 March. We also have our celebrators of their wedding anniversaries. We have past President Fred and Anne Menchu Pascual, 10 March. Past President Willie and Anne Maureen Song, 15 March. Rotarian Carlo and Anne Joy Ibanez, 18 March. And Rotarian Philip and Anne Veda Palafox, 21 March. So a very happy birthday and happy wedding anniversary to all of you, okay? So we'd also like to acknowledge our visiting Rotarians and guests and dignitaries. Of course, we have past District Governor Tony Kila, past District Governor Peps Bangzon, past District Governor Jimmy Cura. We also have Rotary aunts Marisa Del Rosario and Yvonne Kwan. We have life-changing presidents also, in the persons of Ray John Lorca of the Rotary Club of Makati San Lorenzo, and life-changing president Rock Blumenthal, Rotary Club of Alabang. Oh, and we'd also like to acknowledge the presence of the municipal mayor of the local government of Malinaw, Aklan, Mayor Josephine I. Iquina, who is also gracing this meeting for our signing of the memorandum of agreement later on, which we'll be getting to in a bit. Mayor, thank you for gracing this occasion. Okay, so we also have past President Megs Lun of Metro Calibo and Rotary Club President, Makati President AJ Sembrano. To all of you, a warm welcome from us all at Rotary Club of Makati, as well as our fellow club, Rotary clubs joining us in this meeting, Rotary Club of Makati Salcedo and Rotary Club of Alabang, Daang. Okay. So we now go to the recognition of Paul Harris Fellows to be conducted by past District Governor Tony Kila.
Thank you. I'm privileged to recognize as our Paul Harris Fellow, Shabet Haley, and may ask our President, Louis Ashoche, to pin the Paul Harris pin and to present the Paul Harris certificate to Shab Haley.
Okay, congratulations, Shav, for being inducted as a Paul Harris Fellow. And thank you as well to past District Governor Tony Kila and of course, Rotary Club of Makati, life-changing President, Attorney Louis Asioche. Thank you so much. We now go to the signing, I'm sorry, just a moment, there's something popping up. Signing of the Memorandum of Agreement between Rotary Club of Makati and the local government unit of Malian Aklan. Okay, Malinaw rather, Aklan, as mentioned earlier. This agreement, which governs the Clinic in the Cloud Global Grant Project, aims to provide access to telemedicine to treat 400 patients with hypertension, hypercholesterol, and diabetes, and who are residents of the southern part of Malinaw, Aklan, all providing humanitarian service and which aims to advance goodwill and peace around the world, and consistent with what we stand for as a Rotary Club. So I'd like to call on the Attorney Luis Angel G. Asioche, whom we fondly call President Louis of the Rotary Club of Makati, and of course, Municipal Mayor Josephine I. Iquina, representing the local government of Malinaw, Aklan.
Mayor Jo, you may want to say something before we sign.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. I am pleased to express in behalf of the local government unit of Malinaw our thanks to the Rotary Club of Makati and Rotary Club of Metro Calibo. First, for choosing Barangay Rosario as the hub of this project, Clinic in the Cloud. It is an access to telemedicine consultation. We are most grateful for the medical assistance to our barrio folks in the 6 barangays of Malinaw. Our deepest gratitude, a very significant benefit with a positive impact in our barangays. Hindi po ako nahirapang mag-lobby sa aming Sangguniang Bayan when I was asking to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the Rotary. At the same time po, nung mag-ask po ako ng funding counterpart as a counterpart ng LGU po. Because as we all know, this project will bring big impact to our community. It has been very rewarding for me to make partnership with you Rotarians. Kind and appreciate and affectionate. It has been grateful and it was a great honor for me. I hope to continue and sustain the program for as long as I am the mayor of this municipality. I would like to make special mention and my thanks to Ma'am Megs, Dr. Vim Samonte, and Dr. De La Cruz. As a 4th-class municipality with almost 25,000 Malinawnons, and especially on my behalf, we are very grateful po. Thank you very much po.
Thank you very much, Mayor Jojo. It is our privilege and honor as well to be collaborating with you in this project, and we look forward to the successful launch of this Clinic in the Cloud in Malinaw, Aklan. So again, our gratitude to the LGU of Malinaw for helping us fund this project, which is a global grant, and also for the indispensable cooperation of our friends in RC Metro Calibo. Thank you very much. So we begin the signing na po, Mayor Jojo. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay, can you just raise your sign, Moa, so that we can have our picture taking for posterity, Richard? Thank you again, Mayor Jojo. Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, we thank life-changing President Louis Asioche, and of course, the Mayor of Malinaw, Aklan, Mayor Josephine I. Iquina, and congratulations on forging a new agreement for the benefit of the residents of the southern part of Malinaw, Aklan. So,
Thank you.
Okay, so, I now defer to our life-changing presidents for the president's time, starting with life-changing President Louis Asioche of the Rotary Club of Makati.
Oh, thanks, Andre. And Shab Halley, nice to see you again. It's good to have my classmates PJ and Jack with us today. We have leveraged the relaxed restrictions to the COVID-19 alert level to launch a face-to-face project in Bai, Laguna. This is a reboot of the club's long-running supplemental feeding program, which was suspended on account of the physical restrictions brought about by the pandemic. This new project, which we call Food Share, combines the merits of food security and good nutrition. Please allow me to share the RCM video news on the project.
With the downgrading of the COVID-19 level of restriction to its lowest since the start of the pandemic, the Rotary Club of Makati leveraged the relaxed restrictions to launch a face-to-face project in Bai, Laguna. The project is an offshoot of the club's long-running supplemental feeding program, which was suspended on account of the physical restrictions of the pandemic. The launch prompted President Louis Asioche and past President Junjun Dairit and Vicky Winiki of Kabisig ng Kalahi to rise early on Thursday, March 3 for the 2-hour ride to the project site. There they were met by representatives from RC Bai, led by President Gilbert Hidalgo, and RC Makati members, past President Freddy and Jojo Borromeo, and Ann Menchit Ordoveza, who had gone directly to the site. Gracing the launch was no less than Mayor Jose Padrid, who thanked RC Makati for the consistent support to his town.
At kami naman inaantay ito upang kayo ay tumulong.
Ms. Vicky Winiki, President of Kabisig ng Kalahi, shared her experience as project partner in the nutrition program for almost 20 years.
Kami para sa magandang pagbati sa simula ng ating programa. Tulong-tulong po tayo. Silos kayo, ha?
For his part, President Gilbert of RC Bai spoke of the years of partnership and mutual support between his club and RC Makati. Noting the fruitful collaboration between the two clubs, President Louis stressed the importance of partnerships in providing service to the communities they serve.
At kapag gano'n, pumapasok po ang public at private organizations at NGOs para punaan at tulungan ng gobyerno para makapagbigay ng suporta para maibsan ng gutom.
Past President Freddy, longtime chair of the feeding program, expressed gratitude for the renewed chance at serving the community again.
This pandemic has made it very difficult for us to continue our work, but here we are. The show must go on. So thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to share our good fortune with you. Thank you. Mabuhay ang Rotary.
Past President Junjun, in his closing remarks, recounted the club's 18 years of support to the town of Bai, Laguna through its partnership with RC Bai.
Kaya yan po ang ginagawa namin at babalik kami taon-taon hanggat kami ay kailangan. At hanggang sana naman darating rin naman yung panahon na kaya na rin nyo itong programa na to ng sarili ninyo at hindi na nyo kami kailangan.
After the formal program, planting materials were turned over to the beneficiaries to help them with their community garden. A MOA has been signed to formalize the partnerships among the participant organizations. This project is a part of the club's COVID response to address the problems affecting marginalized communities due to the pandemic. As the hope of an end to the pandemic looms on the horizon, the Rotary Club of Makati is committed to carrying on with its programs to uplift lives and improve the communities.
Thank you, Rotary!
So I would like to thank again past President Junjun Dairit, past President Freddy and Ans Jojo Borromeo and Menchit Ordoveza for joining me on this trip to Bai, and of course to the members of RC Bai, led by President Gilbert Hidalgo and Bai Mayor Jose Padrid for gracing the occasion. Special thanks as well to the Kabisig ng Kalahi and Vicky Winiki for conceptualizing this program. Last Saturday, we completed our oral health mission at Rotary Homes with the distribution of free dentures to 26 beneficiaries, mostly seniors, from PAR 1 and PAR 3. I would like to thank again our partners, RC Parañaque St. Andrew, who prepared the logistics, coordinated with our RCCs, and conducted the needs assessment, and Dr. Carlos Santos and Associates, which provided the volunteer dentists and technicians for the two-day mission. The project has just been approved as our second Rotary Day of Service for Rotary year 2021 to 2022, the first being the feedback program in Bai Laguna in October last year. Earlier this morning, the Rotary Club of Makati participated in the formal turnover of the emergency sleeping quarters at the Hospital ng Muntinlupa. This air-conditioned facility can house 13 nurses, complete with beddings and with comfort rooms. So instead of going home, these tired nurses can opt to spend the night over in the facility for a much-needed rest. This is a project by the Philrods, our project partner for the dorm project, with major support from Insular Life. The club contributed financial support to finish the installation of the air conditioning units. I would like to thank past President Bimbo Mills for representing the club in the turnover. Please be advised that we will be having no meeting on Tuesday, March 15, as it will be our service project week. On March 19 to March 20, we will be traveling to Ilocos Sur to visit two of our water projects in the area. The first will be our $97,000 global grant project in Santo Domingo, Ilocos Sur, that will develop additional wells to augment the water supply of the existing system and enable it to achieve full level 3 water works operation. The second is our joint project with our brother club, RC Vegan, for the construction of a hilltop water system in Nagbetedan, also in Santo Domingo, Ilocos Sur. Those of you may wish to get out of the metro for a day or two while doing work for Rotary are welcome to join us for a day of service with fellowship with RC Vegan. Just advise our secretariat so we can inform our partners ahead of time. And lastly, you and your aunts are invited to our 56th charter anniversary at the RC Makati Clubhouse on March 29. This is a Tuesday. A simple program and fellowship would be organized. Please come in your smart casual attire. Please note that although we're down to alert level 1, physical restrictions would still be observed and would still be in place. And for this reason, we can only accommodate a maximum of 50 individuals for the event. Reservation is on a first come, first served basis. Kindly confirm your attendance by texting or calling our staff Angie Falseso at 0977-804-2865. And this will be our first ever face-to-face gathering for the year 2022. See you. Back to you, Andre.
We thank life-changing President Louis Asioche for his president's time. And we call life-changing President Jack Parcon for his time.
Hello, thank you so much for that. So allow me to share my screen. Okay. I tried to simplify all the activities that we had and will have for Rotary Club of Alabang, Daang. So I believe you're now I believe you're now seeing my screen, right? Okay. So let me start with the ones on the left. So those with a blue background. So those are the hosted projects that we have a couple of weeks back. We have a peace and order project with the Philippine Army General Hospital, together with the other Rotary clubs in the district. We were able to donate medical supplies, hygiene kits, and even oral kits to the wounded soldiers of the Philippine Army General Hospital. So that happened last February 21, 2022 at Fort Bonifacio, Taguig City. And then on the right side, the ones on orange background, we have the some of the co-hosted projects. So first, we have the medical mission that was conducted last February 19, which was hosted by the Rotary Club of Alabang Center Point. We were able to perform medical mission in Laguna. The next one is in Parañaque. We have the community pantry hosted by the Rotary Club of the Makati Ayala Triangle. That happened last March 4. And then another one which was happened like very recent. So March 6. So this is the 1 for 1. So 1 for ONE stands for Organic, Natural, Ecological Environment. The project aims to, the project is about providing worm beds, more on surrounding like the organic, natural, and ecological agriculture. So, and then the last one, so this is not a project, but more on like an event last March 1. All the Rotary clubs within Muntinlupa and Alabang were invited by the mayor of the Muntinlupa for his state of the city address. So that's for the orange part. And the ones on the yellow, so those are the upcoming projects for the club. So we have the first one, Maximum Reach, year 2. We're now on the second year. This is a district grant implementation, which will happen next week, I believe March 12 or March 13 in Quezon. And then the second one, we don't have a poster, so this is more on the text portions. It's a global grant implementation. We call that Project Daloy. This is about the donation or the implementation of a community water station across multiple barangays within the south area of the metro. So that's it. That sums up all we had and will have for the club. Thank you. And lastly, I'd like to thank our Rotary Club of Makati, Luby Asioche, for inviting us on this joint meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, life-changing President Jack Parcon of the Rotary Club of Alabang, Daang. We now call on life-changing President PJ Bunyag for his time. He is from Rotary Club of Makati, Salcedo.
Thank you very much, Attorney Andre. Okay, for updates for the Rotary Club of Makati, Salcedo, just last February 22, we did a joint project together with the Rotary Club of Alabang, Daang and the life-changing presidents for a donation to the wounded soldiers. This is a peace and conflict resolution service project done at the Philippine Army General Hospital. And then last March 4, we did our annual Trees for Life project. This is an environment service project done in Zamboanga, Sibugay, spearheaded by past President Rod Santos and past President Angelito Boy Dizon. And last March 6, Sunday, we did a slew of projects, Rotary Day of Service project. First is the 1 for 1, the Organic, Natural, and Ecological Agriculture. This is a seminar and donation of vermi composting facility to the farmers of Barangay Gangahin and Pitogo, Quezon. And also part of that Rotary Day of Service project is the donation of the water pump facility as part of the life-changing cause of accessible water for all. Also in Pitogo in Quezon province. And then we also had the medical mission dubbed as Kalusugan para kay Juan as part of the Rotary Day of Service Maternal and Child Health Care Project, which benefited around 100 beneficiaries. And we would like to thank the Rotary Club of Makati for the donation of diapers, which we distributed to the beneficiaries in that said barangay. And earlier today, we did the annual Child House donation at the Child House Transient Home for Cancer Patients in Malate. This is part of the Maternal and Child Health Service Project. And that's it for the Rotary Club of Makati Salcedo. And again, thank you to President LCP Louis Asioche for inviting us to join this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, life-changing President PJ Bunyag, for your time. We thank all the life-changing presidents who gave us very informative and, I would say, inspiring presentations. Now, to introduce our guest speaker for today, I call on Rotarian George Barcelon, a fellow member of the Rotary Club of Makati.
Thank you, Andre. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, Mr. Julio Teehankee is Professor of Political Science and International Studies at De La Salle Universities, where he served as Chair of Political Science Department from 1994 to 2007, Chair of the International Studies Department from 2008 to 2013, and Dean of College of Liberal Arts 2013 to 2017. He also served as President of the Philippine Political Science Association 2017 to 2019, and the Asian Political and International Studies Association 2009 to 2011. He was a Philippine representative to the Council of the International Political Science Association from 2019 to 2021. He is also the regional manager of Varieties of Democracy, better known as VDEM, for Southeast Asia and Pacific, and a founding fellow of the DLSU Southeast Asia Research Center and Hub. In 2020, he was Distinguished Visiting Research Scholar at the Center of Southeast Asian Studies at Kyoto University, Japan. He appears regularly as a political analyst with the local and international media outlets, and his YouTube channel is Talk Politics with Julio Teehankee. We are happy to have you here with us, sharing your insights and analysis of the current political landscape as the election day draws near. You have the floor, Mr. Teehankee.
Thank you very much, Mr. George Barcelon. It was an honor to be introduced by you, a distinguished personality yourself, and leader of the business community. So it's a great pleasure to be with the Rotarians this afternoon. First of all, I would just like to share my screen, and I hope that my internet connection will hold for the afternoon. So nowadays we live and die by our internet signal. So a pleasant good afternoon to the Rotarians present. I'd like to thank the organizers of this afternoon's event, especially the Rotary Club of Makati, headed by President Louis Asioche, Rotary Club of Alabang, Hari, headed by President Jack Parcon, and Rotary Club of Makati Salcedo, headed by President PJ Bunyag, for giving me this opportunity to share with you my thoughts on this year's presidential election. Special shout out to my friend and fellow Lasallian Henry Akende, who personally invited me to speak to the Rotarians this afternoon. This is my second engagement with the Rotary Club. 2 weeks ago, I was also invited to share my thoughts with the joint meeting of the Rotary Club of Mandaluyong and the Rotary Club of Quezon City. So, suki na po ako ng Rotary Club. No? So, the election campaign, no, as Mr. Barcelon mentioned, is heating up. No, it's as hot as the incoming summer, no, summer heat. No, and as we all know, this year's election will be the most crucial given the challenges, no, of exiting the pandemic. We have not really fully exited the pandemic, and of course, the greater challenge of reviving the economy and building future-proof post-COVID society, so that in the future we will not be surprised by any greater man-made or natural calamity or disaster. Of course, right now we're in the midst of war, in Europe, and we all pray that this will not escalate into another world war. And then there's the threat of further mutation of COVID and future pandemics as well, and of course the greater challenge of climate change. So for this afternoon, I would like to walk you through history and try to look at the current presidential contest from the perspective of my field, political science, and also from the perspective of those involved in actual campaigns. So I would like to introduce to you a discipline which is used as a framework by academics and practitioners of election campaigns, in order for us to understand where we are right now and where we're heading with this election. So, okay. Now, political marketing is a subfield of political science that combines both principles of the discipline known as political science and marketing. And a lot of Rotarians are from the business sector, and you are quite familiar with the principles of marketing. So if we combine the study of politics and marketing, then we look at campaigns from two dimensions, two perspectives, and quite simple actually. So you have the candidate similar to a product, and you have the voter similar to the consumer. And political marketing is the process of pushing your product to the consumer or pushing your candidate to the voters. And the other dimension is making sure that your product or your candidate have what it takes to attract the consumer or attract the voters. So that's the pull factor. So this is the simple push and pull. So if we apply that to elections, particularly in the Philippines, so essentially you have two dimensions. Okay, I hope I'm not lagging. So the push, which refers to command votes, which are votes that can be delivered, and delivered usually through what is known as political machines. These are machine votes that needs to gather and deliver the votes to the candidate. And usually this is conducted through what we call ground war. This is the house-to-house campaign. This is the caravans. This is all this singing and dancing and all that. But this is largely limited right now because of the pandemic. And yet, as we have seen, despite the pandemic, we are seeing large mass of people joining these caravans, joining this rally, because at this point, we are now easing up on the restrictions. And hopefully, this will not add to super spreader events. In the Philippines, command votes are blocks of votes that are gathered and delivered through traditional networks, such as political machines and bailiwicks. Yung bailiwicks is what we call the baluartes. And usually, this is negotiated to leaders and gatekeepers. So, of course, we have our good mayor in the audience right now, and she would be familiar with how votes are gathered, promised, negotiated, and delivered from the local all the way up to the national. So bailiwicks refer to the candidate's natural sphere of influence, commonly determined by his or her ethno-linguistic, regional, and provincial attachments. In Philippine elections, past studies and surveys have shown that the most dependable votes that can be gathered by a candidate, both national and local, are the so-called regional or ethno-linguistic votes. So there's this natural tendency to vote for your kababayan. No? So Pampangueños will vote for a Kapampangan candidate, and Ilocanos will vote for Ilocano candidates. No? So ethno-linguistic vote is the most secure source of votes for a national candidate. No? So on the other hand, on the poll side, no, of course, we speak of machines. No? Political machines are the organization tasked with getting out the votes. No? And there are several types of machines. No? There are party machines, there are government machines, no? And there's machine if you don't have access to a party or government resources. Then if you're rich and or you have a big funder, then you can create your own money-based political machine. No? So the role of the machine is to get out the votes and gather voters and deliver it to the candidates. No? In exchange for a promise of the usual goodies, no? Or the so-called patronage, no? Yung tinatawag na kasal, binyag, libing, no? And other promises that are given to the voters. No? And sometimes it's outright vote buying. No? So market votes are votes that need to be identified. No? These are not votes that can easily be herded and then gathered and delivered. No? And usually these are votes that are that have to be attracted, that have to be convinced. No? So it's like selling shampoo or soap. No? You have to have your unique selling proposition, no? In order for the consumers to buy your product. No? In the case of elections, in order for the candidates to attract the voters. No? And usually, no, machine or market votes are segmented and targeted. No? So market votes are translated into political support by way of popularity that is gauged by and reflected in regular public opinion surveys. No? Now, how do we combine the push and pull factor? No? The pull factor, by the way, the market votes are usually attracted through what is known as the air war, no? Or the use of advertisements. No? And this is the usual traditional media, no? Television, radio, and of course, lately it's been decreasing in terms of readership, newspaper. No? So television, no, remains to be the top channel or avenue for what is known as air war through advertisement. And then second would be radio. But the problem is, of course, as we all know, no, television advertisement is the most expensive. No? And then, of course, second is radio. No? So, and then there's that other factor that the largest network in the Philippines has been closed, and that totally changes the dynamics for this year's election. Now, how do we tie up these two? No? The push and pull factor. No? One of the recent strategy of most national candidates is to come out with narratives. No? And narratives are the stories that candidates tell. No? And nowadays, no, in the age of social media, no, one must not only have a narrative, but one must also have a compelling narrative. No, that will, because in the Philippines, we lack strong parties, we lack ideologies. We don't usually focus on platforms, no, and programs, no, and we focus on personalities. So the shortcut for the candidates to reach the voters is through the stories they tell, the back story of their candidacy. No, it serves to tie up the reason why they are running for office. It is a shortcut, a shorthand to their vision, no, of what they intend to do for the country. No? And usually this is amplified through social media. No? In recent years, social media has become the main avenue for political and electoral campaigns because of accessibility and because it tends to short circuit also the gatekeepers in the traditional media. No? In the traditional media, you will have to encounter first the owners, no, the business owners, the business interests behind the television networks, and then even those of print media and radio networks. No? So social media is actually free and open, no? And of course, it's not free in the sense that it will not entail money. There's a lot of money also in social media campaigns. And social media is not only used in the traditional sense of being avenues for showing political advertisements or campaigns, no? But it has also become a tool for big data analytics, no? The kind of operations that Cambridge Analytica has become notorious for, no? Because of big data analytics and manipulation of algorithms, no? Now political strategies can actually target segments of the electorate and really tailor fit their message to these segments, no? And this is translated to actual support, no? And there will become a so-called bandwagon effect, no? So social media campaigns, no, is also known as online war, no, or net war, no? So now we have a combination of ground war, online war, and air war, no? Now, let me walk you through history and see how previous elections, no, each election, no, each presidential election in the Philippines had its own combination of these different factors and strategies, no, and that resulted to the victory of the presidential candidate of that electoral cycle, no. So in the Philippines, we have had 5 elections since Cory Aquino, no. So in 1992, which resulted in the election of Fidel Valdez Ramos. Then in 1998, the election of Joseph Erap Estrada, but of course he did not finish his term because of EDSA II. Then Vice President Lorna Macapagal Arroyo took over and then completed Erap's term, and then she sought her own term in 2004, and then making her the longest serving president in the post-Marcos period. And then in 2010, Benigno Noynoy Aquino, and then in 2016, of course, Rodrigo Duterte. No? Now, interestingly, 1992 was the first democratic election since the fall of the Marcos dictatorship in 1986. No? And the 1992 election, was characterized by multiple candidates. No? So this began the trend of having more than 2 or 3 candidates. No? In the pre-martial law post-war period, most of the presidential elections included only 2, 3, at most 3, or 4 candidates. But one trend after Marcos is that all presidential elections involved multiple candidates, which resulted in the election of only a plurality president. So in 1992, we've had 7 candidates, and most of them were actually veterans of either pre-martial law or Marcos era politics. You had 2 candidates who depended on their control of the so-called command votes because they had the largest political machinery, largest party support, largest support from networks of governors and congressmen and mayors and local officials, and even the richest or the biggest war chest, political financing. So you had the likes of former Speaker Ramon Mitra and then the former Marcos ally and Ambassador Eduardo Landing Tuaco. But 1992, aside from the rise of then General, then Defense Secretary Fidel Ramos, was the emergence of political legend and character Miriam Defensor Santiago, who was the first, no, to actually use, no, the art of the narrative and political marketing in order to attract voters. No, despite the fact that she did not have any ground support, she did not have the support of the traditional political elites, no, and parties, no. So she gave Fidel V. Ramos the run for his money, no, because of her, of course, the way she spoke, and then her anti-corruption crusade, and you know, she totally gave us a different template on how to run a political campaign. No? But in the end, no, it was a combination of factors that allowed Fidel V. Ramos to emerge victorious, albeit very thinly, no, very thinly. If you can look at the political map, no, here, right here, no, you can see, no, that the votes are divided among all these candidates, no, and the votes tended to follow ethno-linguistic lines, no, and their natural bailiwick, no. So in the end, it was Fidel Ramos who won, and the keys to victory was a combination of the narrative of Fidel V. Ramos. Remember, this was just immediately after the EDSA revolution, and Fidel Ramos leveraged on his role as the hero of the EDSA 1986 revolution, and then he defended Cory Aquino from all the coup attempts in the post-EDSA period, and of course, he portrayed himself as the champion of EDSA, no? And then, of course, he had one of the largest regional bailiwick of Pangasinan, no? And in terms of popularity, he actually led, this was the Social Weather Station surveys from 1991 to 1992. Back then, SWS did not reveal the actual percentages, only the rankings, no? But as we can see, Ramos led all the way, except for April, a month before the election, when Santiago, through sheer popularity and support from the youth sector, no, managed to close in. But in the end, since Fidel Ramos was the one anointed by then President Cory Aquino, government machinery kicked in, and that delivered the presidency to Fidel Ramos, no? 1998 was a different contest altogether. This time you had 12 candidates, no? But from the very beginning, Joseph Estrada led, no? It was what I call a populist wave, because Erap Estrada was our first really populist president, no? And he had, again, one of the most legendary political narratives. He leveraged on his being a movie star, no, an action star, no, loved by the masses. That's why from the time he ran as mayor of San Juan to running for the Senate, and then vice president, and then presidency, he only had one mantra, one slogan: "Erap para sa mahirap." And this endeared him to the masses, who, as part of their revolt against the elites, no, supported him all the way, no? And Erap Estrada could have run for the presidency in 1992, but decided to slide down to the vice presidency with Danding Cojuangco, because that was the sure game for him. And it was a good strategy, because by the time the 1998 campaign, the campaign for the 1998 elections began, he was leading the pack all the way, no? So despite all the attempts by his rivals to catch up with him, no, he led all the way. And in fact, he was so popular that he only attended 2 debates, no? 2 debates, and that's it, no? And he won, no, all the way, no, with a large margin, no, between him and former Speaker Jose de Venecia, no? So what were the keys to victory for Erap, no? Popularity. And since he was popular, he did not have party machinery in 92, but because of his popularity and his bandwagon effect, the major parties started supporting him. the regional bosses uh, and political dynasties and clans and the different leaders started supporting him, and because also of his compelling narrative of ERA para sa mahirap. So he led all the way. No? So on the other hand, no, in 2004, no, of course, this was after Ed Santos, the best friend of Erap Estrada, no, who was a larger movie star than Erap Estrada, Fernando Po Jr., no, wanted to replicate, no, the feat of his best friend, no, Erap Estrada, no, and he was so popular, no, he was so popular. But of course, GMA, no, managed to win that one because of a combination of government and party machinery. No? And 2004 was the year that we only had five candidates. No? And FPJ, originally was leading the pack. Then GMA slowly narrowed the lead. No? And 2004 would show that GMA had an astute understanding of ground war, and the role of incumbency, because she had control over government resources. She leveraged on this control of government resources to form a winning coalition among the regional bosses and the regional political clans. And 2004, of course, later on, her victory would be tainted by allegations of cheating because of the Hello Garci incident. But of course, this would not have been possible if GMA did not manage to catch up on the survey ranking of FPJ. 2004 can be seen as the only presidential election in which the winning president did not win Luzon. Instead, GMA won by winning largely in the Visayas and Mindanao. And what actually pained FPJ that contributed in part to his early death was the fact that he thought he was so popular in Mindanao that he would win Mindanao. But as you can see, he only won parts of Mindanao, and GMA managed to win Mindanao. And what were the keys to victory? Again, the incumbency of GMA, the role of party machinery, popular support, and regional support. Plus, FPJ refused to be interviewed, refused to appear in the debates. So because of that, GMA managed to cut down his lead. Because if you don't appear even for an interview, as a lot of people are saying, the debates and the interviews are like job interviews, and this is the biggest job in the land, and you can't afford to miss this. So that was then 2010. We saw another, as I was saying earlier, every election had its mix of strategies and mix of factors that led to the road to victory. So in terms of Noynoy Aquino, of course, we remember, did not even plan to run for the presidency. It was Mar Rojas, who had the plan to run for the presidency, but of course, fate had it differently because of almost 10 years under GMA with all the alleged corruption and the scandals under her administration. There was this frustration among the voters, and then out of the suddenly, former President Corazon Aquino passed away, and then suddenly there was this nostalgia, Suddenly the entire country turned yellow. There was this nostalgia for the EDSA revolution, and of course, Noynoy Aquino rode on this crest, this wave of nostalgia, and Noynoy could not do any harm. Everyone supported Noynoy. So Manny Villar was leading the pack. It was a tight competition between Manny Villar and Mar Rojas, but when Mar gave way to Noynoy, Noynoy started hitting around 40 and even 50%, no, and managed to hold on to the lead until the end. No? And as we can see, what were the keys to victory for Noynoy Aquino? It was popularity, party machinery, parallel support, region support. So it's similar to what happened to Era Estrada. No? If you are that popular, then all the command votes will follow. No? So this is one strategy, of having the early bandwagon effect. No? If you score high in terms of your popularity, then the rest will follow. Okay. Then in 2016, again, we saw a different outcome of the election. No? As we all know, the leading candidates then were Vice President Sergio Marbina, who had the most organized political party, UNA, United Nationalist Alliance, and then you had the Liberal Party, the anointed candidate of Noynoy Aquino, then Secretary Mar Rojas. Then, of course, you had a return of the popularity to market vote candidate, in the person of Grace Poe, who is the daughter of Fernando Poe Jr. So it was a close fight between Mar and Binay. Then Grace Poe entered the fray. It was a three-way fight. And then out of the blue, this cursing mayor from Mindanao suddenly came from behind and eventually won the election. So this was again a different outcome. Eventually, it was about the voters being disappointed, angered, frustrated at the outcome of the Aquino administration because they had high hopes for Noynoy. Noynoy did well with the economy, but somehow after the midterms, Noynoy was embroiled in a number of controversies that damaged his narrative of Tuwid na Daan. And part of this would be the Napoles pork barrel scandal, and of course the Mama Sapano, the way the handling of the typhoon, victims, Yolanda, and of course all these other controversies, that led to the weakening of the yellow narrative and paved the way for the rise of Duterte. And Duterte's victory was the first time that social media played a big part, because although Duterte himself did not use social media, his followers were able to adopt the Cambridge Analytica style of micro-targeting the electorate and directing their message. And Duterte did not have the big machineries of the elite, the parties, but rather he relied on volunteer groups organized through social media. And for the first time, the OFW, who did not vote much in previous election, all came out big for Rodrigo Duterte. And up to now, they form the core of the so-called diehard Duterte supporters, or the DPS. Now, this year is going to be interesting because it seems to be a repeat of both 98 and even 2010, in which early on, the son of the former dictator and namesake, Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. has taken a big lead. And for the first time, the incumbent ruling coalition or government does not even have its own supporter, candidate, for the election. And then you have all of these other candidates, trying to generate as much market votes as possible. So as we all know, you have Ferdinand Marcos Jr., BBM, leading the pack. And then you have Vice President Leni Robredo, and then you have Mayor Isko Moreno Domagoso, then Manny Pacquiao, Ping Lacson. And for the first time in Philippine history, an outright socialist candidate has joined the fray in the person of Calio de Guzman. So if we will look at the Pulse Asia survey, we can see that it was only around September that Marcos's candidate rocketed, no, to a high of 60, no, or even 50, no. So as you can see here, no, and of course he was the beneficiary of the decision of Sara Duterte not to pursue the presidency, and then her decision to run for the vice presidency under the so-called unity team, no. And plus, of course, the decision of Grace Po not to join the electoral fray this year, no. So all the votes of Sara Duterte and Grace Po transferred to Bongbong Marcos. And as you can see, as of the latest survey of January 19, 2022, Marcos hit the highest 60, which is ironic because 2022 is the 50th anniversary of the declaration of martial law. And it will be the height of historical irony that on the 50th anniversary of martial law, the president will be another Ferdinand Marcos. And it will also be the height of historical irony that the first majority president in the post-Marcos period might be a Marcos. But of course, it's a long way to go. No? We're just in the beginning of a 3-act play, no? And we've just seen the early part. No? And if you will see the SWS version of the survey, no? And even Okta Research version of the survey, we can see that there might be a danger that BBM has already peaked and his votes will now go down. No? So, and there are other internal surveys, and there's this other weekly survey conducted by another survey firm, WRN Numero. I'm sure there will be a lot of questions regarding the reliability of surveys, but I will answer that later in the Q&A. No? As you can see in this chart, no, there is already a tendency for the numbers of Bongbong Marcos to go down. No? So some analysts are saying that he peaked too early, and it's still a long way to go, 2 months to go before election day. The challenge is how to maintain that. Can he manage to maintain it simply to social media by being picky with his appearances, no? Only appearing in friendly interviews or debates, no? How would he survive all the attacks? Of course, if you're the front runner, you will be subjected to all the collective attacks of your rivals. No? So how will he maintain this? Plus the fact that the irony of his campaign narrative of unity, no? The most polarizing name, no, has actually appropriated the theme of unity. No? But when you start to ask, what exactly does this unity entail, then he has to give details. No? And he has to account, because he's running on account of the so-called golden age achievements of his father. No? And we're seeing this kind of martial law, Marcos authoritarian nostalgia. No? And the very fact that we're actually hearing the Kilusan Bagong Lipunan hymn or march, no, being played in his campaigns, no, it's a throwback, no, to that era in which I'm sure some of you from my generation would remember when we used to wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning and we would hear that song being played in our elementary schools. So it's a big throwback to that past. No? So he has to account for what his father has done during their regime, and he cannot avoid that. No? But as you can see here, no, the results of the research. No? Now, is it over? No, it's not over, because if we look at this question from Octo Research, you know, what is the likelihood of changing votes for the president this coming election? No? And we can see here, no, while a large chunk of voters will not change their mind, 39% plus 24, you still have around 37%, and this was in December of last year, 37% who might change their mind. So, you know, there's that window, no, for the other candidates to attract. And among them, of course, Manny Pacquiao happens to have the softest base of support, no? While the rest have very strong support base, no? The supporters who will definitely change their mind are the so-called Pacquiao supporters, and that accounts for around, let me add, 63% of Pacquiao supporters can still be convinced to shift. You know? And of course, we know that Manny Pacquiao, the base of his support comes from Mindanao, a crucial battleground for this year's election. No? Okay. And then the other factor is that while Vice President Leni Robredo consistently comes second to BBM in the survey, when asked who will be your second pick, it's not Leni Robredo. That's the answer, no? By the respondents. It's actually Isko Moreno. No? So what we're seeing here is a tight competition between Isko Moreno and Vice President Leni for the right to challenge BBM in the finals. No? Okay, and the same goes for this is the Pulse Asia survey. Okay, what would be the reasons, no, that will make you change your mind? No? So the number one question is if she is involved in corruption. Interesting, 29%. If she involved in criminal activities, 28%. Has committed crime, lies in public, and 11% he does not, if she does poorly in televised debates. No? So interestingly, no, you might ask, how come, despite all these reasons, BBM still leads the pack? No, because he managed to surround himself with kind of social media Teflon coating. No, his army of supporters in social media, no, would counter, no, and would create this narrative and image that is that would deflect, no, all of these controversies against him. No, so let me check. Okay, so another survey. I don't think I have it here on my presentation right now. No, but the exit poll survey of 2016, no, conducted by Social Weather Station, noted that 54.2% of voters really decided only after February. So we are now entering that period in which the voters are really taking a look at the candidates. And a significant 18% of them decided on the election day itself. That's still a significant chunk of votes. No? And from that same SWS survey, no, 72.7%, no, were influenced by the debates in making their choice. No? So between 28 to 37%, no, based on the recent surveys from Pulse Asia and Okta Research, are still inclined to change their mind. So what am I saying? It ain't over until it's over. No? So 2 months is like an eternity in Philippine politics. A lot can still happen. If we look at what happened in 2016, no, it was only around April that Duterte suddenly came out of nowhere. No? So a lot can still happen. And the challenge for the BBM camp is how to protect their lead And I wonder how they're going to do that if they keep on absenting themselves from the debates and the interviews. And then there's this groundswell of support right now from for Vice President Lenny. No? So now we can see that her campaign is picking up with the large crowds. No, it's actually the contest right now is reminiscent of the 1986 snap presidential election. So I'm having flashback because I was in college back then. No? So it's really like a repeat of the 1986 snap presidential election. So the pressure for the BBM camp is to maintain these numbers. He might be peaking too early, and there might be that corrosive effect of not attending the debates. For Vice President Lenny, there's this groundswell, and this is led by a segment of the youth, usually from the Catholic University, and we are now seeing the Catholic Church trying to reestablish its influence in Philippine politics. We haven't had that since the passing away of Cardinal Sin. And then we can see a reminiscent people power campaign on the ground, which is again reminiscent of 86. And ironically, they're going against the same warlords from the KBL of past, so the same names of the warlords in the provinces. No? My only advice to the VP Lenny supporters is to tone down their elitism. No? They have a tendency to look down and be condescending on other people. No? And that's the very reason why voters abandon them to begin with. No? So, and then the rest I'll just share with you after in the Q&A. No? I'm calling this stage the Battle of Bandwagons, no? Because BBM Sara Unity first tried to project a bandwagon effect that it's already over at 50, no? And even 60. No? And now we're seeing VP Lenny campaign picking up, no? And there's this huge crowds in all of her campaign rallies. So that's another bandwagon. So I'm calling this the battle of the bandwagons. No? So why is BBM leading the pack right now? Because he's running like the Democratic Marcos of 1965 instead of the failed dictator of 86. If you will observe him, the way he speaks, the way he dresses, the way he communicates with the public, it's so reminiscent of his father in 1965. But of course, a lot of voters still remember the failed dictator of 1986. Okay, so with that, I would like to take this opportunity to plug our latest book, which was just released last week. It's Patronage, Democracy in the Philippines, Clans, Clients, and Competition in Local Elections. If you want to understand more why we are where we are right now politically, please get a copy of our book. It's published by Ateneo University Press. I'm from LaSalle, but Ateneo published my book. So that's unity. So, and then also, if you want to hear more from me, my interviews, my lectures, and all my appearances on media, please visit my YouTube channel, Talk Politics with Julio Teehankee. Please like, comment, and share. And please subscribe. Thank you very much, Rotarians. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, we thank Professor Teehankee for that enlightening talk. I also want to take this opportunity to greet Professor Teehankee. I have not met him personally. Sir, I have not met you personally, but we're actually co-faculty at De La Salle University, albeit from different colleges. I'm from the College of Business, specifically the Commercial Law Department. But under the circumstances, I'd like to invite those in attendance to please ask your questions, like what I mentioned earlier. Just you may use the raise hand function, or you may type in your questions in the chat box, right? So I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I do too, but I would rather defer to the audience in the meantime. If we have time, I'll probably chime in with my own modest questions right there. President Louis has a question. Oh, he typed it in. Okay, the question from Pres Louis is this, Professor Teehankee. Do you think that political parties still play a role in the elections? Good question. Given that the campaign is waged more in social media and the candidates now either run as independents or under parties which were not the dominant political parties in the past years, are political parties losing their clout and relevance?
Thank you, President Louis, for that question. And thank you, Attorney Andre, fellow Lasallian. So I hope to see you in person once our campus opens up. No? So again, to begin with, we've never had really strong parties. The nearest we've had to institutionally strong parties would be in the pre-martial law era. We've had a functioning formal two-party system. We had the nationalistas versus the liberal parties, and they've been, just like in the United States, you have the Republicans and the Democrats. But of course, the difference is that the two-party system in the pre-martial law period, while it was distinct, it was strong, but it was still the two factions of the same ruling elite, and not much difference in ideology. It was just one party, taking over another after one election and trying to maintain its stay in power. And it's gotten worse, after EDSA. In our parties, we're just labels, and politically, our parties are weak compared to other institutionalized parties in other parts of Asia. And our politics are largely based on personality, patronage, and even political clans and dynasties. So if you want to learn more about this, please get our book. So it's all there now. So, but I'm saying parties did not really matter. It's just a label. It's just a legal necessity for them to carry a label. And largely, these political parties are just coalition of clans and dynasties. And I've always said that it's political clans and dynasties that have been the building blocks of Philippine politics and not political parties. So all throughout my academic and professional life, I've been really lobbying, I've been trying to educate for the development of strong institutional political party based on platforms and ideologies instead of personalities. And we have seen that, and we're seeing that right now. Notice all the major candidates for this year's presidential election are carrying weak, even unknown parties. These are parties that have been used in the past by other candidates and now being revived. Action Democrático, Pro Europa, Reforma. That was De Villa in 98. And then even Vice President Lenin decided not to carry the Liberal Party. So this year's election is not good for reforming or building strong political parties. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, Andre?
Yes. Thank you. We see a few more questions here. Just a moment. So we have another one from Antonio Lopez. Question, will a Duterte endorsement sway the rankings at this time, 2 months before the election? What do you say to that, Professor?
Okay. That's a tricky question because since 1992, the only presidential endorsement that worked was that of Cory Aquino anointing Fidel V. Ramos. And notice all the other incumbent anointments were really just a kiss of death. So remember, it was FDR anointed Speaker De Venecia. That did not turn out well. GMA anointed Gibo. That did not turn out well. Then Noynoy anointed, endorsed Amar Rojas, and of course, Amar Rojas lost. So, but there's a big but because President Duterte is still widely popular. And in one survey of the Pulse Asia, 4 endorsements matter. First being Grace Poe, No, second is President Duterte. I think at 22 or 30% of respondents said that anybody endorsed by President Duterte, they would support. No, so Grace po also. No, and then the third is Chris Aquino, and the fourth is Angel Locsin. Would you believe? No? So these are the four important endorsements, no, in this year's election. No, but and then of course there are talks that Mayor Isko Moreno is now trying to get the endorsement of President Duterte. No? Again, we are aware of the internal, personal, and political dynamics within the House of Duterte. No, so and then we know how President Duterte plays his politics. No, talagang ibang klase maglaro itong presidente ito. No, may mga last minute surprises, no, and all that. No, and that's how he is. No, until sa pagtatapos ng termino niya, ganun pa rin siya. So yeah, it's interesting. Will the president endorse? Because it will be a game changer for Isko Moreno if Isko Moreno is the anointed one, no? Because he is still the second. No?
I don't know whether I'm supposed.
Yeah. So that's the game changer, and then it's game over if Duterte endorses BBM. No. So yeah. So that's again a challenge for the VP Lenny supporters. How do you counter that turn of events? Okay.
Thank you, Professor Teehankee. And I hope that answers Rotarian Antonio Lopez's question. We have a third question from past District Governor Jaime Cura. From your perspective, Professor Teehankee, what are the key factors that the Lenny support group have so far failed to mobilize in order to turn the tide more significantly away from the apparently insurmountable BBM lead?
Yeah. Well, it's largely circumstantial. It took her a long time to decide to throw her hat in the ring. She attempted to unite the opposition first, but having failed at that, decided to run. No, she made a number of good decisions, like distancing herself from the liberals and the yellow forces, but it seems superficial because it's still the same yellow leaders supporting her. No? So she should situate her campaign, a few notches higher than where she is right now, because while it's different, people still get the same vibe that it's the same. No? So and then she should avoid, of course, the tendency of her supporters to become elitist and condescending and looking down on other people. No? Diba, politics is addition. No? So that's what I keep telling them. Politics is addition. You will not get votes kung iinsultihin mo yung kinukonvince mong bumoto sa'yo. No? So all of her followers on social media, walang ginawa kundi i-correct yung English ng mga supporters na ibang kandidato. Hindi ka mananalo sa ganyan. No? So they need to really course correct their strategies. But I think the people's campaign is taking it's picking up. It's taking steam, and as we've seen that in all these big rallies. No? So again, it's really they're on to something. They should continue that. No? And the authenticity and her performance in the debates are really resonating with those still deciding. And the energy of the youth, segment of the youth, I haven't seen this since the time when I myself campaigned for Cory Aquino in 1986. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. We have another question from Rotarian Dennis Belmonte. Professor Teehankee, what can you say about the accusation of bullying Remulla? Is it a slap on his face? This is about a huge crowd at Lenny's meeting.
Right. Well, it's like the pot calling the kettle black, no? And yeah, both figuratively and literally, by the way. So, the Remullas are known for doing that, no? I mean, ever since the time of their father, no? And it's something that you don't. kumbaga wag na natin patulan dahil alam naman natin ganun din ang ginagawa nila. So, yun yung, di ba? Well, talaga. I mean, imagine that. I mean, yung mga kabataan doon, hindi mo naman mababayaran. So, it's actually an insult. I take that as personal insult because a large chunk of those people there were from De La Salle, Dasmariñas, Cavite. So,
thank you. We have another question from Rotarian Antonio Lopez. What is the likelihood of withdrawals that might swing the top rankings?
Yeah. You know, that's one scenario we're looking at, no. But the reality of Philippine presidential campaigns, no, you know, it's actually donor driven, no. You know, once all these big bucks, millions or billions of pesos are committed, no, it's difficult to give it back, no. So, and then once you're already in the middle of the campaign, no, there's that, diba, pride. No, political pride, or what will happen to you if you back out. So we do not have that. We do not have that culture of backing up. You know, early on, before the actual campaign, candidates backing out on behalf of another candidate is acceptable. Like when Doy Laurel backed out for Cory Aquino, or Mar Rojas backed out for Noynoy Aquino. In fact, that helped, no, propel their campaigns, no. But right in the middle or at the tail end, candidates backing out, I don't remember anybody doing that or endorsing. But you know, there's always a first time, no. Like if Manny Pacquiao suddenly backs out and endorses Lenny Robredo, that can be a game changer, or Ping Lacson. But I doubt if Ping will take that route because he's now even red tagging the Lenny supporters, which is so disappointing because he has taken the high road all throughout the campaign. People were impressed with his performances in the debates, and yet out of, you know, pick perhaps, no, he red tagged VP Lenny. So that will not help his 6%. No. So.
Thank you. Professor Teehankee, I have a question myself. It's actually blended.
Yes. Sure.
The elephant in the room, so to speak. Let's talk about BBM.
Okay, sure.
So it's you know, it's funny that, but you're talking about marketing earlier, and I'm under the impression that the reason why BBM has been marketing himself, quote unquote, as BBM instead of Bongbong Marcos is precisely to, you know, divorce himself from whatever reputation his father might have had. You don't have to hate BBM to know this. But basically, here are my questions. You know? It appears based on your discussion that there is the Messiah question, and I would say paradox. It's almost cyclical. Everything post-Marcos was cyclical. There was a problem of Marcos. He needed a housewife and a person of Cory to save us. But Cory herself was the subject of so many coup attempts. And somehow you needed a Ramos to somehow assure the nation that, you know, we're not just about EDSA, we're also about investments and being on track. And you've got Arab somehow, you know, saving the people from what might have been an elitist presidency and somehow make it more populist. You've got Arroyo who challenged the corruption of, or allegations of corruption of Arab, and so on and so forth. You've got Pinoy, who was not even a stellar congressman, not a stellar senator, but somehow the Cory magic rubbed off on him. And he actually is a good president, or was a good president. My question is, what is Bongbong Marcos saving for this country? Is it being fractured? I'm curious, Professor, because of his I mean, the surveys showing that he stands to win by a landslide. And if the Cory magic rubbed off on an otherwise ordinary Noy for his benefit, how come the reputation of a President Marcos has not somehow pulled down the reputation of a Bongbong Marcos for purposes of the May 2022 elections? Why does he stand to win? Is it because of Sarah? Is it because he has been mum about our fractured society, thus the unity tagline. I'm curious myself, Professor.
Okay. So again, well, I'll try to answer that question, that very complex question, as simply as possible. In most of my writings, I point to a cycle of presidential narratives or political narratives. No, so we've gone through a cycle of narratives, and the rise of Marcos, in fact, and the rise of his authoritarian regime was a rejection of the post-war republic, which was headed by the landlords and the so-called oligarchs. No? So he used the frustration of the voters and the people against the oligarchs, no, in order to claim to rescue the republic, make it great again, and introduce a new society. Of course, we all know how that ended up, no, with his crony capitalism, human rights violation, and other sins, no, to the people. And it took, of course, Cory Aquino, that, of course, out of the death of her husband, Noña Aquino, to establish, to reject the Marcos authoritarian and create the so-called EDSA regime. But 30 years since EDSA, no, the problem is that we did not go through transitional justice. No, we just let the Marcoses return, no, and accepted by society, first by the social elites, no, social circles. Then later on, we allowed them to rebuild their bailiwicks in Ilocos and in Leyte, and then eventually we allowed them to return to national politics through the Senate, the election of Bongbong and later Aimee. You know, all of these, no, from the very beginning, was part of the grand strategy of the Marcoses for their rehabilitation, and they have the money to back it up. No, right? So yeah, it's as simple. You know, the year that Noynoy was elected president was the year he was elected to the Senate. He tried in 1995, but the EDSA people power forces were still strong at that time. By 2010, it was already weakened. He managed to win the Senate seat, and since then he plotted his return. And the vice presidential run was just a test run for this year's presidential run. And his loss in 2016 helped him identify where he is weak geographically. And you know, and then of course, he invested a lot in social media, no? And social media has the tendency to flatten history. And it's the perfect venue for historical revisionism. And of course, all of this coming together, plus the fact that he managed to hire a lot of foreign consultants who did all of this Cambridge Analytica style of data analytics. And of course, his army of defenders online. So actually, it's not really surprising, no, that he is where he is right now. Now that we know, then for those who would like to prevent a return of the Marcoses, then they should play it smarter, right? The old ways of doing it would not cut it, especially with a lot of the people already enamored with the Marcos so-called golden age and promise of hope. And I see the hand of Mr. Barcelon, so I have to take this question from Mr. Barcelon.
Yes, Professor Teehankee, I just want to ask, for the local election, they can only start campaigning March 25. Okay.
Right.
Would that make a difference? From
yes,
what we're seeing, yeah, from what we're seeing, some of the sortie of VP Lenny, then starting March 25, they can campaign, no, for the local election. Would that make a difference?
Yes, and as I've said, no, based on previous surveys and the exit polls of 2016, a large chunk of our voters will decide after February. And after February, why? Because that is the beginning of the local campaign. So my analysis is that right now it's a close race between Mayor Isko and VP Lenny, no, in order to see who among them will contest BBM's lead in the finals. And the beginning of the campaign for the local elections will be, I think, the turning point in this election. So we'll see who among them. And now you can see that the ISCO camp, is now hitting, BBM, directly, questioning the record of the father, his degree, etc., etc. Why? Because they want to pull down his number so that ISCO can catch up. But because of the fact that he is the consistent second choice in the surveys. On the side of VP Lenny, of course, we have to see whether all of these large rallies will translate into actual numbers in the surveys and hopefully later on with the votes.
Thank you for that, Professor. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Any more questions? Okay, so thank you so very much yet again, Professor Julio Teehankee, for that very informative, enlightening, and actually exciting topic, talk rather, on such a controversial topic. Okay, so that said, again, thank you so much. And now we'd like to get the responses from our life-changing presidents, starting with life-changing President Jack Parcon of Rotary Club of Alabang, Daang.
Yeah, I'm speaking on mute. So hello. So yep, again, I'd like to thank this opportunity first to our guest speaker, Professor Teehankee, for your inspiring message and very informational message and speech, and also to my classmate Louis Asioche for inviting our club, for inviting us on this joint meeting. And so I hope that with all the information that we have gathered today, right, I hope that we'll be able to use that at least be influenced, and again, like spread awareness, because this meeting doesn't just, the information we have on this meeting doesn't just stick with the four corners of this Zoom room or the Facebook, right? So it starts with us. Well, I guess it already started, and it keeps continuing with us, and let's help spread it furthermore to a big crowd there, so to be able to help, I guess, influence what we need or what the country needs in terms of this coming national election. So yep, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, President Jack, for your response. We now call on life-changing President PJ Bunyag of Rotary Club of Makati, Salcedo, for his response.
Thank you for that, Attorney Andre. Again, I'd like to thank LCP Louis for inviting us over for this joint meeting, and of course, Dr. Julio Teehankee for that insightful presentation. And if I can quote one thing from what Dr. Teehankee said, he said, 2 months is an eternity in Philippine politics, which of course sends hope to those who are not in the lead, and probably makes the one leading to double his effort to protect his rating. Of course, we are now witnessing the big shift from the command votes to market votes since the advent of social media, as we have seen in the last presidential election. So while funds and alliances are important, it is basically the battle of message and narrative. Those who can better get the message across and accepted will most likely end to be the winner in this race. Well, it is very exciting how the other factors like the endorsement of the Catholic Church, the enthusiasm of the youth, the alliances with the local political clans, and even the debates will affect the outcome of these elections. And again, as the good professor said, 2 months is an eternity in Philippine politics. Thank you.
President PJ, thank you for your response. And of course, we now call on Rotary Club of Makati's own life-changing president, Attorney Louis Asioche, for his response.
Thank you again, Andre. And thank you, Mr. Teehankee, for your very interesting talk. That was a truly objective analysis. And you just gave us a formula for a successful campaign, combining the push and pull factor, that one must have a compelling narrative, although these narratives can be cyclical. That is, they tend to recur after an intervening phase. But it's true. This election fever is heating up, and nowhere is this more pronounced than in the tit for tats that the supporters of the contending presidentiables are posting in social media. Well, even the COMELEC finds itself unable to enforce its restrictions on political rallies and face-to-face gatherings because it may end up just disqualifying all the candidates. But elections in the Philippines always involve money and political machinery. As you say, it is donor-driven. Money politics in this country has always been viewed as a sordid issue during campaigns, but it still can neither be curbed nor controlled. And that is why we have well-intentioned, more competent individuals with true heart for public service who cannot win because they do not have the money to oil their campaign. It is said that 2016 was the Philippines' first social media election, and President Rodrigo Duterte's campaign was the first to tap into the social media virality. And these coming elections may prove to be a more dramatic second iteration, the battle of the bandwagons, as Mr. Teehankee would say. A candidate leading in the service now has obviously taken a leaf from the Duterte page and has tapped into social media way before the filing of candidacy has even begun. And such early investment in social media rather than strengthening a moribund political party has been paying him dividends, if the results of the surveys are to be believed. And that is why a political party is viewed more as a mere afterthought or a token necessity just for the sake of getting official copies of electoral returns. Party switching is commonplace. Political butterflies would always gravitate towards the party in power for every new administration that is installed. Thus, these 2022 elections will certainly be an interesting but bruising fight among the candidates. The problem is, social media appear to have exacerbated further division in Philippine society and politics. The internet has been a heckling forum, with so much hatred being spewed, with historical revisionism on the rise. Not only the candidates, but the entire nation might be scarred and hopelessly divided. Unless the winner emerges with a clear majority, the candidate who prevails with only a bare plurality, given that there are just so many contenders, would have his or hands full rallying or unifying this death-ridden nation as one post-election. Whichever way it goes, the integrity of the conduct of these coming elections is paramount, if only to show that our country can still credibly carry out a vital cornerstone of democracy. So for giving us your time, Mr. Teehankee, please accept our tokens of appreciation. First, we are going to give you this coffee table book that was recently published. This is our 55th coffee table book and features the milestones of the Rotary Club of Makati for the last 55 years. And you can enjoy reading this coffee table book with this fine bottle of Cabernet. And also we're giving you this plaque of appreciation, which has an embossed replica of the steel plate on a reef bud that will be planted in the seabed of Narvacan, Ilocos Sur, as part of our Save the Reefs project. This is a major environmental initiative of the club, in line with Rotary's 7th area of focus, which is saving the environment. So Andre, let's have our customary photo session now with our esteemed guest speaker. Yes. Guests and classmates, please open your video and give Mr. Teehankee your biggest smile.
Yes, I'd like to invite also our secretariat to assist us in carrying out our photo op. Of course, we wouldn't want to squander this opportunity to capture the beautiful faces of our fellow Rotarians and of course our guests and dignitaries. Okay, so.
Yeah, okay, 1, 2. One last. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I call on my classmates now to adjourn the meeting. Thank you again for agreeing to co-host this with us. Classmates Jack Parcon and PJ Bunyag. Kindly adjourn the meeting.
On the part of the Rotary Club of Makati Salcedo, I hereby adjourn this meeting.
On behalf of Rotary Club of Alabang, Daang, I now call this meeting adjourned.
And in behalf of the Rotary Club of Makati, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Teehankee. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you, sir. It's my pleasure, sir.
Thank you very much.